Okay, it's recording now, so the floor is yours.
So first and foremost, I want to just say thank you for having me here. I really appreciate the time. If you don't know who I am, I'm Lieutenant Eric Scarborough. I'm actually one of the admissions counselors for the United States Naval Academy. So my primary job is to essentially help guide and counsel students that are interested in applying to the Naval Academy. And it can actually be any grade level or age, but most people gear that towards the students that are applying, so juniors and seniors. But we do offer several different summer programs for the younger grades, like 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. And we definitely try and outreach to them and try and get them interested, and we have opportunities for them to come to the Naval Academy and kind of see what it's like. So this isn't just geared towards those that are interested in going to college, right down the road. A little bit of a background about myself. So I did go to this school. I actually went to the Naval Academy Prep School beforehand, which I can talk to you guys about if you're interested. But I graduated in high school in 2008 and then showed up to the Naval Academy in 2009. I was a recruited soccer player, so I can definitely talk to you all about the recruiting process and how that kind of ties into applying to colleges and especially to the Naval Academy. I got an engineering degree while I was here. I played all 4 years, graduated in 2013. And then I service selected surface warfare, which if you don't know what that is, I'm essentially a ship driver. And I got to do things like be the ordnance officer and gunnery officer on a destroyer. And I got to do some non-traditional things where I was assigned to a Marine infantry battalion, did some things with them. But I am active duty, as you can see. So I am in the military currently. But now, like I said, I'm an admissions counselor, and so I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. Right. And I'm not sure kind of how, sir, you want to do this, if they want to just ask questions throughout. This is a really short brief. And so, they can ask questions during, or we can wait till the end. It's really up to you all. There's only like 5 slides.
Ideally, why don't we just wait for the questions at the end of your presentation?
Okay. So first, if none of you have ever been to the Naval Academy, we're actually located in Annapolis, Maryland. All right. If you don't know where that is, we're about 40 minutes south of Baltimore and 45 minutes east of Washington, D.C. All right. We're located right on the Chesapeake Bay. So right there on the water, actually. But if you're interested in kind of like a tri-city area or that metropolitan type of lifestyle, you can definitely find that here at our school. But if you've never been to Annapolis, Maryland, it's the capital of Maryland, and it's a phenomenal city, and it's probably one of the most ideal college towns you could ever think of. It's got everything from restaurants, bars, clubs, convenience stores, shopping, you name it, you can probably do it. And the great thing about it is you can actually walk into downtown Annapolis. That's how close it is. So you don't have to worry about getting, a car or a taxi or driving, because it's literally a half a minute walk outside the gate. Now, you could also be one of those students that never leaves the yard. Why you would do that, I have no idea, but you could never leave and have everything at your fingertips. It takes only about 10 minutes to get across the whole campus, and it's got everything that you'll need to survive, right? It's got things from barbershops, beauty shops, cobbler shops, laundry services, convenience stores. All of your medical, dental facilities are located on the yard. We also have all of your academic buildings, as well as 22 world-class athletic facilities that are at your disposal as a student. And then you can see here, right, our student body, just over 4,500. So we're actually a very small footprint. You can see our male to female ratio. But one of the interesting things about us, and I think one of the benefits about coming to a school like ours is we are a national school by law, right? So we're actually required by law to appoint students from every district, every state, and every territory in the country. So we are looking for anybody and everybody from everywhere. And so don't think, right, if you're just because you're from Oklahoma or the Midwest or something along those lines, you stand less of a chance. We are equally outreaching to everybody because it's actually required by law to do so. Now, in the top left corner, you can see kind kind of some accolades or some things that the Naval Academy has been rated for, and really it's just my time to let you know that we are first and foremost a college, okay, a university, a 4-year education program. Every student that comes here will graduate in 4 years. Okay? There's no 5-year, 6-year program, and you can't graduate later. And you can see, right, we're a top-notch education program, from #1 top public school in the country. We are always ranked in the top 5 in terms of engineering programs, to include things like aerospace, mechanical, electrical engineering. Um, we have countless times over the last several years have been ranked in the top 5 liberal arts colleges as well. And honestly, one of the biggest things that I think coming out of the Naval Academy, and maybe some of you can agree, is you're trying to go to college to kind of set yourself up for success, right? So that you can get a good job after you graduate and make some good money and have a good life upon graduating. And so if you take a look at the last bullet, right, you can see number 4 highest paid mid-career graduates are coming out of the Naval Academy. So not only is this school going to set you up for success, the 4 years that you're here, which I'll talk about here in a second, but it's going to set you up 5, 10, 15 years down the road, in ways that I'll try and explain. Right? We've had presidents graduate from here. We've had astronauts. We've had numerous amounts of doctors, CEOs, senators, congressmen, all graduate from the Naval Academy. All right. Now, with an education program like that, we would sometimes compare ourselves to an Ivy League type of education in terms of the academics that you would get here at the Naval Academy. And you would actually get to come here for free. Right? Every student that comes to the Naval Academy, no matter what their background, no matter their athletic abilities, academic abilities, if they get an appointment here to the Naval Academy, they will receive a full scholarship. And really, it should be a full scholarship plus. Right? You will not only get your tuition covered, right? Your classes that you take here, but you get your food covered. You would get room and board covered. You actually get life insurance while you're here. You'll get all of your medical and dental coverage, as well as you can show up to the Naval Academy with absolutely nothing, and it would all be provided to you, essentially on the first day of school, right? I showed up on the first day of school with a sandwich bag that had my phone, a phone charger, and an ID in it. And that was all I needed to provide. And they gave me all my shirts, shoes, socks, underwears, toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste. Every student gets a laptop, right, with a desktop monitor. Every student gets one of those like Sega Genesis Game Boy calculator things that does calculus 3 for you if you press the right buttons, but half of them you don't even know what they mean. Books, binders, pens, paper, you name it, it's going to essentially be given to you while you're here. And then on top of that, we pay you. We pay you actually get a paycheck every month. You're technically an employee of the government if you come to our school, and so you'll get a paycheck every month. It's about $1,100, and that's money that's going to go into your pocket, right? So you don't have to worry about getting a part-time job or doing something on the side to make a little bit of money, so that you can go and enjoy downtown Annapolis on a Saturday night. We're gonna give you that money, so you don't have to worry about it, and your priority is to graduate. So what does that mean? If you haven't thought about this, and I didn't really think about it until after I graduated, you'll have zero student debt coming to this school. The average right now in the country is about $40,000 that students owe. Sure, some people pay more and some people have to pay less, but if you come to this school, you will have to pay zero money back upon graduating from here, which is pretty phenomenal. Now, what you'll graduate with, okay, is you'll graduate with a Bachelor of Science. And so it actually doesn't matter the major. You will all graduate with a Bachelor of Science if you come here. You will commission as an officer in the United States Navy or Marine Corps, right? You get to pick. So if you're interested in maybe the infantry type of lifestyle or kind of that Army side, we have the Marine Corps. If you're interested in the ships or the aviation or submarines or something along those lines, we have the Navy side. You get to pick which one you want to go into. And then you have to do a minimum of 5-year service commitment. And so some of you I may lose because of that, right? You're essentially dedicating 9 years of your life to this school and to the Navy. Excuse me, not sure what happened there. Sorry about that. So you'll be dedicating essentially 9 years of your life to the Navy or the Marine Corps. But to kind of put this into perspective, right? You're getting a $400,000 education for free, and so it makes a little bit of sense as to why the Navy's going to ask for a little bit of time back. And then on top of that, I think that it's because of this 5 years of service that we are the fourth highest paid mid-career graduates after graduating from a university or college. And it's because you are guaranteed a job after you graduate from here. You don't have to worry about doing resumes or interviews or job hunting after you graduate. As soon as I threw my hat up in the air, May 24th, 2013, I had a job and I got a paycheck like 7 days later, which is pretty phenomenal to think about in terms of where your friends are going to be that go to other universities who are going to have to work part-time jobs or volunteer work or go home, right, to just get their foot through the door. You won't have to worry about that, right? And you're going to have phenomenal work experience, right? You're going to be an officer. So if you don't know what that means, you're going to be responsible for people and equipment. I was 23 years old and I was responsible for billions of dollars worth of ordnance on a ship. I was responsible for billions of dollars worth of weapon systems and gunnery. And then I was also responsible for 18 to 20 enlisted sailors from 18-year-olds to 35-year-olds. And I was responsible for their day-to-day work, what they were completing, and ensuring that everything was accomplished in a timely manner. Right. So it's a pretty phenomenal work experience that you're going to get, and it's going to be priceless when you decide to get out after your 5 years and start looking for a job in the civilian world. Okay. Now here are our majors. So on the left side, you can see we have 25 available majors. A majority of them are STEM based, right? That's kind of our bread and butter here. But we do offer some humanities and social sciences. And like I mentioned before, everybody's going to graduate with a Bachelor of Science. So your major has nothing to do with what you graduate after, what you're going to do after you graduate. So nobody's going to force you into a specific major. You pick what you want or what you're most interested in. And then on the right side, what most people don't realize, right, because we're a militarized school, we actually compete at the highest level of collegiate sports, which is NCAA Division I. We offer 33 between men, women, and co-ed. And so if you're interested in furthering your athletic career, you can most definitely do that here at a very high level. Now, keep in mind, right, because this is at the highest level, a lot of these teams are heavily recruited. And so I can talk to you all about that process if you're interested. Now, in terms of the application process, so on the left side, you can kind of see a flow chart, right? The top is offers of appointments. So that's how many students we asked to come here. Down at the bottom, we do have like a preliminary application that starts in the spring of your junior year, okay? Spring of your junior year. And based on the information that you provide in a preliminary application, you'll become an official candidate. And that's when you get access to the online portal to complete the application to USNA. There's 4 wickets that you have to meet, right? This kind of makes us different than other institutions. There's 4 wickets that you must meet to be eligible for a spot here. Okay, first, and what most colleges are looking at is the admissions board, right? We're scholastically going to determine if you're qualified to come here. That's going to look at your GPA, your classes, your courses, test scores, things of that nature, right? You also, okay, we will require every student to be physically fit. So we will require you to do what we call a candidate fitness assessment. It's a evolution that comprises of 6 exercises to include things like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, running a mile. And you will have to submit those scores to us and we will determine if you are qualified or not. If you do not qualify that test, you are not eligible to come here, right? Even if you are a 5.0 GPA, 800 SATs, right? Captain of whatever teams and the whole works, if you don't pass that test, you are unfortunately not eligible to come. We will require you to be medically qualified by a doctor, so we will pay for you to get a sports physical done with an eye exam. And so if for whatever reason you're not medically qualified in accordance with the military standards, you will not be eligible to come. And then last but not least, you have to receive a nomination. It's essentially like an endorsement from a congressman or a senator. And you must receive a nomination to be eligible to come here. And so you have to apply to all of the valid nominating sources that are available to you all. And without knowing any of you, all of us are eligible for at least 4, okay? Both your state senators, your district congressman, and the vice president. So you would essentially have to do 5 applications to get into this school. And if you don't receive a nomination from one of those, unfortunately, you'll not be eligible to come, all right? Now, what we're looking for, okay? We're looking for students that have a strong foundation in STEM. I didn't show you all, but we do have some, because everybody graduates with the Bachelor of Science, there are core classes that every student has to take. And that can include 3 semesters of calculus, 2 semesters of chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, plus numerous amounts of weapons and engineering classes. And so what we're looking for are students that can handle themselves and hold themselves above water, especially in those rigorous STEM courses. And so what we like to see is you have a strong foundation in things like pre-calc or calculus and chemistry, okay? We don't have a minimum GPA, but we do ask, right, for you to be in the top percentile of your class. As of right now, due to COVID measures, we are actually test flexible in terms of the SAT or ACT. It's usually mandatory, okay? But test flexible essentially just means that we're gonna ask for you to try your best to take the test at some point. And if you can't, right, you'll have to explain why you weren't able to take it. And then we will determine if we will still look at your application or not. Right, so we still are going to ask for you to do your best and try and make a test. You can see our averages there. Okay, averages for SATs in terms of math is usually in the high 600s, low 700s. For verbal, okay, same thing. You know, in that upper 600 range. For ACTs, we're looking in the upper 20s, lower 30s, and same thing for the math. All right, and so the only reason why I bring up those 2 subjects is because those are the only 2 subjects that we look at. We don't look at writing, we don't look at chemistry, we don't look at subject tests, just the English or reading and the math, right? And we even super score here. We highly encourage that you take APs, honors, and IB courses because essentially that's you taking college level classes in high school. And then last but not least, and probably one of the more important things on here is that you demonstrate that you're a well-rounded leader. Okay, the end goal of coming to the Naval Academy is that you're going to become an officer, right? You're going to be a leader. You're going to be in charge of people. And so what we want is for you to be able to show that potential on your application through your extracurricular activities, right? Basically going outside of the box and doing more than what would be required of a normal high schooler and taking on more responsibility than what a typical person may do in your grades, right? And so, you know, we're not looking for somebody that's a part of 900 different clubs, okay? We're looking for somebody that's devoted themselves to one specific club maybe, and is taking on a huge leadership role and is trying to make an impact within that club, right? Or sport or whatever it is that you're interested in, okay? Right here is my contact information. All right, and so by all means, you can reach out to me, and then I'll throw it in the chat box as well, so you guys can get it later, because I'll stop sharing the screen here in a second so that you all can start asking questions if you have any. But you can call me or text me or email me or whatever it is that you need if you have any questions going forward. All right, and then so sir, that's all I got. If we want to open it up for questions now.
Awesome, thank you, Eric. And for anyone that'd like to ask a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away.
Yeah, Eric, this is Brian Gray. How you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, got a question. You mentioned that that a graduate has to do 5 years after they graduate in the military, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what happens after that 5 years? Like, what if they want to continue? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So I just hit my 5 years back in 2017 and or 2018-ish timeframe. And so essentially I just accepted the next chapter in my pipeline. So I'll be going back to a ship here in the next year or so. and starting that next kind of part of my career path. As for those who don't want to stay in, then they would essentially put in the paperwork to be honorably discharged, and then they could take their experiences and their diploma and go in and start applying to jobs in the civilian world. But yeah, most definitely you can stay in for, shoot, the vice admiral right now in charge of the superintendent's been in for 40 plus years, if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Now, as for, sorry to jump you, but
no, go ahead.
so, it says minimum of 5 years. So some of the communities actually require a little bit longer of a time commitment. Things like becoming a pilot, right? Because you get sent to extensive schooling after graduate, you'll essentially go to school for 2.5 years, learning how to fly, whatever it is that you're going to be flying, whether it's jets or helicopters or something like that. And so it makes sense, right, that as to why they're going to ask for a little bit of time back. For pilots, it's usually like 9 years, okay? And then instead of the 5, and for what we call naval flight officers or backseaters, it's about 7 years. And then also something, right, you can become a doctor right out of the Naval Academy. So if you're interested in becoming a doctor, what you'll do is you'll actually apply to what we call our medical corps. And if you get accepted, the Navy will pay for you to go to any medical school that you get into, right? Whether it's Harvard, Johns Hopkins, or we have a military medical school that you could also go to. Your medical school would be completely paid for.
Wow.
But you would have to serve, right, 10 years as a medical doctor. But being a military doctor versus a civilian doctor is really the same thing, to be honest with you. You just have to wear a uniform. You wear a uniform once in a while. But yeah, that's definitely an option, but the time commitment obviously is a little bit more just due to the schooling. Anything else?
Well, if no one else is going to ask, I've got a few more questions to ask you.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the benefits, life insurance, so on and so forth. I kind of heard some of that. I kind of didn't. Could you repeat that? And my second part of that question is does those benefits follow you after you complete the 5, if you just do the minimum 5 years?
Yeah, so when you go to the school, you'll essentially be in the military, right? So the Navy is going to give you what we call our SGLI, our life insurance, the military life insurance, and then you'll also fall under TRICARE. So you'll have both of those benefits while you're a midshipman at school. And then those will carry over, right, as you become active duty and become an officer for your 5 years. Now, unfortunately, if you were to decide to get out, right, those things would only follow if you retire, right? And so retirement is at 20, and that's when you would get full retirement benefits in terms of medical and life insurance. If you were to get out earlier than that, then unfortunately those wouldn't go with you. You would have to find insurances somewhere else.
Okay.
Did that answer both of your questions?
Yes, it did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Excuse me, sir. How should we take the steps to get a nomination from our Congress, senator, or the vice president?
So yeah, that's a good question, right? And the nomination process doesn't actually open up for students until the summer of their senior year, right? So that's when you'll start looking at that process. And what you'll do is you'll do the nomination process in conjunction with applying to the Naval Academy. And so they are separate processes, but they come together at the end. And so to get a nomination, so let's talk specifically maybe a senator or congressman, you would have to go to that specific senator or congressman. You'd have to go to Congressman Hearn's official website, right? And go, or whoever it is that your congressional district representative is, you'd have to go to their specific website and look at their individual application. And so you'll have to, most of them require things like transcripts, test scores, letters of recommendations, an essay, right? And so you would apply, and then they would do maybe like an interview process to kind of see what you're like in person. And then based on how that whole process goes, they will essentially nominate you or not nominate you to the Naval Academy. And those nominations are due to us by January 31st of your senior year. And then based on those nominations are what we use to determine who we select to come. Okay.
If I may also ask this question, when exactly do you recommend us getting our admission process done, our physical fitness tests, our medical qualifying done?
So you won't have access to it until around May timeframe between your junior and senior year. And as soon as you get access to it, you'll be able to complete all aspects of the application. And so what I would recommend is you complete it as soon as possible. Okay, now technically it's not due until, well, this year it's February 28th, but it's normally due January 31st, right? So you could wait until then. But if what I would recommend is the sooner that you get it done, the sooner I get to look at it, or your admissions counselor gets to look at it and be able to provide feedback in a timely manner, right? If need be, in case there's areas in which I think you need to work on before the deadline is due. If you wait till January, right, then I'm not going to have enough time to get back to you. And so what you submit is what you got. Another thing, right, is the medical piece. Okay. So us setting up you to get your medical screening done by a doctor, all depends on how fast you get your application in, right? We won't submit your name to get your medical done and pay for it until you're about 50% done with your application. And so the sooner you get those aspects done, the sooner you can get your medical done. If you wait, right, then the entity that we utilize to get those physicals and those screenings and qualifications completed, you tend to get backlogged because they not only do our qualifications, the Naval Academy, but they do it for West Point as well. They do it for the Air Force Academy. They do it for Coast Guard Academy. They do it for all the ROTC units in the country. They also do it for the OCS commissioning sources, right? And so they get backlogged, and then so students tend to maybe not find out that they're medically qualified until May of their senior year, right? Like a month before coming on I-Day, which is the last thing that you want to do, right? You don't want to wait that long. So the sooner the better, essentially, is what I'm getting at.
I'm asking this because I'm a junior. I'm a junior this year, and I'm just wondering when I should start getting ready for all of this, because right now I've talked to counselors, talked to family members, and people I know that have gone to the academy with what I need to do.
So as a junior, right, the first thing that you really should be worried about, okay, for juniors that are on here, you know, the biggest thing that you should be worrying about at this moment is just doing well in your junior year classes, right? Some people tend to think that your senior year is kind of like your last hurrah. I'll be quite honest with you. We probably won't even see your senior year grades just due to the application process, right? If you're finishing your application in the fall of your senior year, right, we're never going to see those grades and make determinations off of those grades. So everything that we're going to be looking at is essentially junior year and below. So this is really the year to kind of to end strong, or if you unfortunately did poorly in some areas before, like I did, okay, junior year is really your time to bring it up. Then the next thing that you would focus on, right, is so this spring, right, really this winter, January 4th, okay, is when the application for the Naval Academy Summer Seminar opens up. And really that's what I would be applying to, right, to really get an idea as to what the Naval Academy is all about, as well as kind of get that input from us as to when you should be starting to get things done. And also when you apply to Summer Seminar, that counts as your pre-application, right? So you're actually getting a head start on the application process, whereas everybody else that doesn't apply to Summer Seminar won't have access to start until April 15th. So that's a good thing. And so if you're interested, right, I was the officer in charge of Summer Seminar last year. And so if you're interested in coming, I highly recommend that you apply. If you're not familiar with it, it's pretty remarkable in the sense of you come into the Naval Academy for 6 days. and you'll get exposure to everything from the military to the academics to the physical to the leadership. Obviously, being able to stay on campus, eat on campus, get that lifestyle. It does cost a little bit of money, but it covers everything from clothes to food to room and board to the whole works, right? That's covered under the tuition, which is it's about $600. But I guess the last thing I'll put out, right, is that if $600 sounds like a lot, because you also have to pay for your flight out there and back. We do offer substantial amounts of financial scholarships and financial aids to those students that need it. We'll pay for the tuition and the airfare, or both, or one or the other. So don't allow money to be the reason as to why you don't apply and don't come. And so if you're interested, right, I just recommend that you just reach out to me, okay, and I'll be able to help you out.
It's the applications are on January 4th, is what you said, like when we can start.
Yeah, the application for summer seminar opens up January 4th of this year for you.
And when exactly is this week period?
It's going to be in the month of June. We'll do 3 sessions. First week of June. Last year it started like May 31st or something like that. But it usually starts on a Saturday. Excuse me. It usually starts on a Saturday and ends on a Thursday.
Okay.
All right.
Great questions, folks. So please, if you have some other questions, please ask.
I see a question in here in terms of diversity. So obviously diversity is a hot topic nowadays, and it's definitely something that we take into consideration in ensuring that we have a widespread of diversity across the brigade of midshipmen. You know, we take that to heart because the officer corps needs to be an equal representation of the enlisted corps. And, you know, diversity is not just about race. Okay, it's about backgrounds, it's about cultures, it's about heritage, it's about where you lived, where you came from as well. And so that's another reason as to why we're required, right, to look for students across the board from all over. We also have a diversity office here located on the yard that's in our admissions office, whose sole responsibility is to ensure that we're meeting the requirements that we set forward going in terms of what the Navy is looking for, and ensuring that equal representation is going across the board in all areas. Right? But that's a good question. Just remember that diversity is not just about, right, ethnicity and race, though, okay? So that diversity is all aspects as well.
So speaking, Eric, speaking of diversity, what is the ethnic breakdown of the academy, and not just race, but also in gender?
So the gender right now, in terms of male to female, male is about 72%. So that puts the women at about 28%. That's actually the highest it's ever been, and it's continuing to grow every year. There's no cap or anything like that. We don't have a cap on any aspect of our diversity in terms of what we're looking for, right? That's just the numbers that we end up selecting, and it's continuing to grow every year, which I think is phenomenal. In terms of minorities that come to the Naval Academy, it's about 40-45% minority here at the Naval Academy. And obviously that can be in all areas. And then, but, you know, one thing to keep in mind, right, is that due to the congressman and senator nominations that are required for an appointment here, we have equal representation from every district and every state, every territory in the country, which I think is pretty phenomenal to say. Kids coming from Oklahoma to Alaska to North Dakota, and the kids that are applying from, let's say, right, Kansas 1, right, have the same amount of opportunities of coming here to the Naval Academy as the student that's applying from LA or New York or Northern Virginia, right? The congressmen and senators all have the same weight, and we're all and so we have that equal representation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So 45% minority, but can you even break that down in terms of groups?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
If you want, I can get you those numbers offline if that's something that you're interested in, sir. I can definitely get them to you. I don't have them off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. That's fair. Okay. I think there was a couple questions in the chat.
Yes, sir. I answered the first one. Let's see the second one. As a student, what were some of the biggest hurdles you overcame to be successful as a student at the Naval Academy? So the biggest and hardest thing about the Naval Academy is just the workload. You'll be required to do a lot, right? The expectation exceeds any other student, right? And I'll be honest, when I came home for summer vacations and spring breaks and things like that, and got together with my friends from high school, the things that I was doing, just they just didn't understand how or why I was doing that, right? First and foremost, the academic load is going to be a lot, okay? Because a majority of our majors are STEM based, right? There's a lot of four credit classes, 3 credit classes that are required. And so, you know, the average credit load here at the Naval Academy is 18 credits. But my junior and senior year, I was taking 21 to 22 credits a semester. And the average in the country, okay, is 10 to 12. So it's a lot. And then you will also be required to take leadership professional classes as well. You'll take things like ethics, law, leadership, seamanship, navigation, those types of courses, right, to develop your character and your leadership potential upon graduating. We also require all of our students to take humanities and social science classes like history, government, English, obviously, composition, things like that, to ensure that we are well-rounded officers when we graduate. So it's more than just your major, right? When in terms of academics. On top of that, there's going to be physical requirements, right? There's still a test. There's a physical test that you have to take twice a year to ensure that you're physically fit. There's also training requirements, military training requirements. And then on top of that, right, I also played varsity soccer, right? So I played at the Division I level. And just because you play at the Naval Academy doesn't mean that the time commitment or the seriousness of playing at that level is any less, right? So I was still practicing every day, traveling, you know, playing in tournaments and the whole thing. And so the time commitment becomes a lot, and the workload can sometimes be overwhelming. But what you all are used to right now is just good time management. And so you'll learn that, and you'll be provided essentials and people and faculty to ensure that you're set up for success. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Eric. I'm gonna ask a real quick question. These are two. I want to get these in. How many? Maybe you might have covered off on this, and I didn't hear it. How many students are actually admitted into a class? And is there a cutoff as far as when you can get accepted, or you can apply and get accepted?
Yeah, so those are good questions, sir. I didn't hit on the numbers. I can definitely talk about the numbers. So every year we offer about 1,378 students. Sorry. Apologize for that. Every year we offer about 1,378 students. Sorry, I have the smoke alarm going off.
Oh, you got a fire?
Okay, sorry, hold on.
Yeah, you have a fire?
I'm sorry about that. So we offer about 1,378 students every year, knowing that about 1,250 are going to accept. And usually we have about 1,200 students that actually show up on the first day of school. The class size that we're looking at every year in terms of coming in on their freshman year is just around 1,200. Now, actually, the strange number though is not really the number of students that we bring in. What the Naval Academy is looking for is the amount of students that graduate at the end of the year. And so we actually have one of the highest, if not the highest, graduation rate in the country. About 89% of our students that come in every year graduate. And so the numbers that we're looking for is about 1,000 students every year that graduate. That's our actual number. So that kind of fluctuates and determines how many students we offer on a given year based on like our graduation rate. Last year we had about 16,000 students apply. So the acceptance rate, you know, if you did the math, we're looking at like 7 or 8%. But I'll be quite honest with you. Okay, of those 16,000 students, only about 6,000 students actually finished the application. So you increase your chance of getting into the school from 7% to like 25% just by finishing the application process. And then of those 6,000 students that finished, only about 3,000 met all 4 wickets, right? Met the admissions board, the physical fitness, the medical, and the nomination. And so really the final pool that we're selecting students out of is that 3,300. So now your chances of getting in is about, 33%. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does. Yes.
And again, I really apologize about the
Oh,
fire
the other
alarm.
thing was the age cutoff. Is there, I mean,
Yeah, so we do have an age requirement here. You have to be at least 17 by the first day of school or July
Okay.
1st.
Okay.
And you can't be older than 23 by July 1st of your incoming year.
Okay.
So for students who don't get in right away or go another option, but then decide to come here, they have until they're 23.
Okay.
You also have to be a U.S. citizen, only a U.S. citizen. You can't be dual. You can't be married, can't be pregnant, can't have any legal obligations to anybody outside of the Naval Academy. Those are the basic eligibility requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. What specifically do you look for candidates at outside of education, physical fitness, and the medical qualification?
So that well-roundedness is kind of a big deal. We want to see that you are doing stuff outside of school. Right? It takes more than just grades to get here. We're not necessarily looking for the perfect SAT scores. Okay, we're looking for somebody that's well-rounded and can hold themselves above water in all areas. Right? I call them Renaissance men or women, essentially. And we will also require you to do interviews, like face-to-face interviews, as a part of your application, not only for the nomination portion with the congressmen and senators, but for our Naval Academy application, we will require you to do a face-to-face interview with one of our liaison officers that live within your area, right? So we can see what you're like in terms of in person and your character and your demeanor and kind of how you present yourself in kind of like that one-on-one situation. Right, because people tend to act differently on paper than they do in person, or vice versa, and so we try and get that whole person aspect.
As part of the application, are we able to? How exactly should we submit teacher recommendations or anything relating to that nature?
So part of our application, we require 2 teacher recommendations, right? It's a requirement to have one from your English teacher and one from your math teacher, and they will be either from your previous or current year. Those are that's the only requirement that we'll have. And the recommendation is a little bit different than what you would think a typical letter of recommendation would look like. We would essentially send them an email, and that we would have them ask questions about how you are as a student in their class, as well as give remarks about the type of person you are in terms of a student in their class. Now, you do have the opportunity to provide additional letters of recommendation if you want to. Those would just be submitted via your admissions counselor, right? You would just email those to your admissions counselor, and we would attach them, but they're not required.
So like an optional one would be someone who this person was my teacher last year, but also is still my coach for a varsity sport. That can be an optional application I could, letter of recommendation I can send to you. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would just be wary about additional ones though. Okay. Just make sure that the additional letters of recommendations that you send to us are going to be providing us information that we don't already know. Right. So what I like to hear is that you were going to ask like your coach, right, who could write about how you are in terms of, the athletic abilities and the leadership that you have within that extracurricular activity. What I tend to have students stay away from doing is asking for another teacher to write another letter of recommendation, because we're already getting 2 teacher recommendations required, right? And so having to read through a third one that's going to provide essentially the same information is not necessarily what we're looking for. So I would look outside of the school, look outside of the typical recommendations that you would normally have written, and look for those people that are going to be able to talk to you about things, or talk to us about things that aren't represented in your application, right? Or be able to expound upon some things that you want us to really focus on, like leadership. Right? And remember, leadership is not just like, hey, I was the team captain of this sports team, or I was the president of this club, right? The student that tutors, 2 people on the side shows just as much leadership potential as the varsity football captain, right? You can obviously tailor any leadership characteristic into anything that you're doing, right? And so don't just don't just think like you have to have the big ticket items to be considered a good leader, right? Or that you have to step outside and do something completely different than you have been doing, just because you think that that's what we're looking for. Anything else? So I threw my contact information into the chat box if you all need it. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'll be more than happy to help you out. And it can be about anything, right? It can be about the Naval Academy, obviously, but it could be about applying to any of the other service academies. I'll be more than happy to help you out as well. If you didn't know, there's five total. Okay, the Naval Academy, which funnels officers into the Navy or Marine Corps. There's West Point, right, or the Military Academy, which is for the Army. There's the Air Force Academy. There's the Coast Guard Academy, and then there's the Merchant Marine Academy. And all of them are phenomenal institutions to look at, especially if you're interested in serving your country afterwards and becoming an officer in some capacity. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that, or just applying to colleges in general, or the recruiting process in terms of playing athletics at the college level. I can definitely help you out in any of those areas.